I just want everybody to feel freedom and happiness and freedom from obsession about food and body.
Yes.
And when you get there, it's like, that feels incredible. And I think there are people who get there and they're bigger than they want to be for all kinds of reasons, not just vanity, but also other things, feeling, like you were saying, I don't feel good. I can't exercise like I want to and all that stuff. But they're afraid to try something because it might send them back into it. And I say, again, just trust yourself. Trust yourself, trust yourself, trust yourself. If that feels like it's sending you back into it, then stop doing the semaglutide. Do something, come back to where it feels good, where it feels okay.
Robin, I guess it's too early to say, but I was going to say, obviously you gave the great example of your sister. I wondered if you've heard any other stories of it working. Because I talk a lot about how we don't know how this is going to end. Like, we don't really know the side effects, but I'm wondering, like, have you seen a patient for the past year and it has worked and it has helped and they are living this freedom that we talk about? Because I never give those examples. Speaking of judgment, I never give those examples. So I don't know. I'm just wondering, like, do you know anyone that has?
Well, my sister's the only one I know that's done it over time. I have some clients that are just starting to try it. And it does seem to be working in that way for one of them. The other one's just starting. And she's having that experience of, I feel like I'm eating normally. And she is, like, as opposed to binging and feeling like she eats more than she should or craves it, thinks about it, craves it. That's not happening anymore. And that's kind of amazing. It's a freedom, I mean, if you're addicted to alcohol, you can be sober. You can stop going places where there's alcohol. You can stop drinking. If you're addicted to food and your brain is doing that, that's a real thing. And you can't stop eating. You can't get away from it. So,
you have to eat to live. Yes. That is the challenge with food.
Well, it's a really amazing medication for these people. Yeah. Because it gives them their brain quiets down. What's a quote? I had a quote from someone from an article on semaglutide. The obsessions about food that plagued her, even when she was skinny, are gone. She stopped picking her skin and biting her nails. Her mind is quieter now, more peaceful. I mean, it's like if someone has extreme anxiety and they take anti-anxiety medication and it helps, that's a good thing. We're talking about medical health issues, and I'm not a doctor, so that I'm always just like, go talk to your doctor, don't talk to me about medication. That's not what I do.
Right.
But anecdotally, I can say, there are people who need it.
Oh my God, my listeners are going to love it because, believe me, they rail against when I say, I don't like it.
Well, I think you're a good voice though for saying you don't do it, just to lose 20 pounds. It's a medication. It has side effects. That's not, we're not talking about that.
I always try to say to people, because I think one of the things that resonated for me that you taught me over the years is what you resist persists, right? So if you're not getting to the, if you've always yo-yo diet, again, like you said, there's two different camps. There are people that cannot, no matter what, they've done everything. They can't turn off that noise, shopping addiction, alcohol, whatever. But if you're in the camp, I think like I fall and a lot of people fall where you're overeating or you're doing something toxic to yourself, but you're not sure why you can't stop, but it doesn't feel good. You need to. I always tell people, you can do this, but it's not going to address the root issue. And then what's going to happen if you do have to come off it, or if you do have side effects, or, it's like, it's just going to come back to you. I don't know. I'm a big opponent or proponent of, people talking things out or joining a group, because we all have issues. Like, things always come up. It's very hard. Some people do go through life. They have it like no drama, but.
No, you're right. I mean, processing, integrating trauma, dealing with what is the reason that I'm doing it. It's so complicated because yes, I mean, I just think that's so important. And I also think it's important to love and accept yourself as you are, you know. I mean, the whole thing is
Yeah.
until you do that. I mean, I remember with you, it was like you have to trust yourself. And you were like, no, I'm not going to trust myself. I can't trust myself. You didn't realize that you could.
Even loving myself, like even the idea of like radically like loving myself, or like, exercises you would teach, you still do, giving yourself a hug to let,
Yeah.
I didn't do any of that. I never even would stop. Like now I'll even write sometimes like, hey, what did you do well today? What did you think you did
Mm,
well today? Like even giving that to myself, it took me years. I never would do that. I was always like, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. You could be better at
right.
this. Why aren't you? And, look, I think too, I don't want to, if you made this point, I think it was a good one. Points in my life, I've been very fortunate, and this doesn't happen for everybody. Like with the Kane show, I'd made enough money. I was at a point I could leave that job. Like that was part of the reason, right? Lots of times when you really get into mindfulness, sometimes you have to make a decision. Are you going to leave a marriage? Are you going to leave a
Yeah.
job? Are you going to stop speaking to a parent? I mean, those are hard.
Yes.
They're not easy things to do. Yes, they can lead you to a lot of freedom, but not everybody can like quit their job like I did,
Right. Yeah.
I was lucky to, be single at the time. I didn't have kids. I didn't have a more, I could walk away from this, and then things got exponentially better. But
The other thing you had, I think, you know, the resource you had was a very loving family growing up. You had the trauma of your dad dying at age 12, right? What's
yeah,
now?
13, 14, like in
Yeah.
there. Yes.
But you had healthy attachment with your parents. You were unconditionally loved. And given, that gift of a happy childhood, healthy, happy childhood. And that gave you resources too to deal with Cain, to deal with trauma, to bounce back from these kind of like toxic places you'd sort of come into and come out of them and be healthy and happy and whole. And if people feel like, gosh, it's not working for me, there may be things from your childhood that you need to work on. Just because you didn't get it doesn't mean you can't get it for yourself now. You can get to that place of being happy and healthy.
And have all your years of therapy, I mean, have you found, doesn't it suck? Doesn't it always come back to your childhood? Doesn't it always come back to it really sucks, doesn't it? I mean, because you can't control that. And like,
I know, right?
it always comes back to the damn parents, doesn't it?
Yeah, I know. Certain aspects of it, but you can heal from that trauma. Attachment trauma can be healed.
Really?
Yeah, it can. And I think sort of what you said about being able to love yourself enough to get out of the bad places instead of staying in them. That's a big, I think, when you're healthy, when someone says to you, that's abuse, you kind of glint. You know what? You're right. I'm out of there. You know what I mean?
Wait a minute. Yeah, I was like, it is? Oh, it is. I
Yeah.
didn't realize that. Right. Right.
Yeah. But some people, it's like, that's abuse. And they're like, well, I can fix it. Or inside, there's like a different calculation. And, that can be addressed and you can heal. I
Mm.
do believe that.
Well,
Uh,
you've seen it. I mean, you've worked with people, you've seen, I'm sure.
mhm. Yeah. But it's good to not compare yourself to anyone else because you're on your own path. You have your own history. You know what I mean? It's like, if people find it's hard for them to do what you did, out of the gate, they're just on a different path. It's different for them.